Oda just confirmed Red-Haired Shanks is a celestial dragon. Yep, we told you guys. A bold day prediction hockey has once again manifested into reality. With this banger of a chapter, so much was revealed. From number 1, the names of all 5 elder planets. Number 2, the confirmation of the new god fruits. Number 3, Imu-Sama's secret weapon, Uranus. And number 4, Shanks' grandfather, Saint Figarland Family.
What?
I don't come up with these names, alright? Chapter 1086 begins with the reverie coming to an end, and thankfully, it was a calm event. Okay, well, that was it though. Nothing else happened. Guys, come on. That wasn't a big deal. Fine, alright, everything went to shit in the reverie, but at least it's over. I mean, Vivi is still missing, Cobra is dead, and everyone is losing their minds, but
we don't care.
Anyways, we see Wapol and Vivi escaping together with an insane amount of knowledge. Luckily for Wapol, this information just brought them a first-class ticket out of there, as Big News Morgan will do anything for a good story. And that means escaping 2 fugitives from certain death. This is reinforced in chapter 1074, where Morgan points out how Vivi was bawling her eyes out, showing that Wapol had informed them on everything he saw, including her father's death, and that she is a D. But Morgan is playing the long game and will expose this news when he is ready. This means that what Imu and the 5 elders have been trying to keep hidden for such a long time is about to crumble around them, as they accidentally revealed this to not only Sabo, who is telling Dragon as we speak, but Wapol. The government influence is already waning, and the fact they're hidden so much from the people is about to come to light. So Imu-Sama is finally coming out of the shadows. Literally, Imu is the king of all devils. I mean, of course, Sabo managed to escape, but he was left barely alive. Imu-Sama's god fruit is alluded to be just like Luffy's, a new type of Zoan, but a Logia mix instead of Paramecia. This can be seen with the way Imu's arrow shot out by passing Sabo's Haki and Logia body. Not only is Imu's demon god fruit broken, her Haki has to be ridiculous as it overpowered Sabo. Not to mention, with Imu's transformation, the number of irises in her eyes had increased. Living for 800 years, Imu must have mastered Haki to a greater degree than anything we have seen so far. Regardless, Sabo's quick thinking and speed got him secured in the bottom of a Lulusia ship as they sailed back home, which is where this happened. But Oda in chapter 1086 finally gives us some of the backstory on what exactly Imu-Sama did. And as we predicted, it was Uranus. Alright, not that too. Come on. What are we, 5? But everyone in the Balls Deep community should already know by now. We do not miss. We learned this as we are taken back to the 5 elders. They first discussed Sabo having a checkered fate, being connected to so many members of the D clan. I mean, his 2 brothers are Portgus D Ace and Monkey D Luffy. He was saved by Monkey D Dragon. And finally, he was given a message from Nefertari D Cobra. Like, gosh damn, he's surrounded by D's. That sounded kind of soft. But listen, what I mean is that he's just as connected to the D clan as an actual member, despite not having the name. Also, we have to remember that Ace dubbed Sabo Saw D Bo, so technically he too is a D.
Cap.
And plus, being part of a D is not necessarily linked by blood. Rather, it's all down to will. Yes, like the will of D. This determination was shown by Sabo throughout his life, seeing oppression in the Goa Kingdom, to then wanting to be free, sailing the seas, to of course now fulfilling Cobra's dying wish by passing on his message to Luffy and Vivi. But the 5 elders also delve into the issue in Egghead, which was delayed due to this incident. In the midst of the conversation, Imu-Sama rings, saying, "It's time to test Dr. Vegapunk's invention to use Mother Flames." Now, those of you who are not subscribed and don't have that notification bell dinged would have gotten confused at Imu-Sama's statement. statement. Imu is not saying that the weapon they want to use is Vegapunk's invention. Rather, Imu is referring to the fuel. Vegapunk in chapter 1068 teased this idea of unlimited energy, and of course he had created a prototype to this power. In fact, the ancient robot which Vegapunk kept around was one of the sole reasons he delved into creating this energy. We alluded that this would have been brought forth with a form of a renewable method, such as using the sun. However, our other thought was using a modified version of the Lunarian flames. After all, Vegapunk had studied King and used his DNA to create the Seraphims. This ancient, near extinct race used to live on top of the Red Line before the celestial dragons took it over, and their knowledge of Joy Boy would suggest that the Lunarians were close to the ancient kingdom. Their flames might have held the secret, empowering the nations, bringing us back to Mother Flame, which is Vegapunk's attempt in replicating the ancient kingdom's energy. Stupidly, he shared this with the government in order to gain their trust for more funding. And as he states in chapter 1068, this, along with being betrayed by one of his own clones, is what contributed to his assassination plot. This is reinforced by the 5 elders, who, in hearing Imu-Sama's decision to use Uranus, agrees they have not yet seen the effectiveness of this energy source, and depending on how it performs, they will reconsider their approach at Egghead. If this energy powers Uranus, Imu and the 5 elders would instantly know Vegapunk is purposely looking into the past, but also would want to make sure that this energy is fully under their control, which means a complete takeover of Egghead Island. But as the 5 elders discuss the best testing ground from a forest to the sea, Imu-Sama stops them in their tracks and says, Lulusia, nuking a whole ass kingdom shocked even the gorosei as they question why. Imu explains that it is all due to proximity. Yep, the kingdom is just near where the weapon is stationed, so why not? In their rush to test Vegapunk's mother flame, they will go ahead and use Uranus to blow up Lulusia. Through this, each of the 5 elders agree, as Oda reveals every one of their names, and all of them are dubbed as warrior gods. Yes, much like how sun god Nika is the warrior of liberation. Saint J. Garcia Saturn is a warrior god of scientific defense. With this role, he is in charge of preparing and deploying Uranus. This role would also explain why he was sent to Egghead Island instead of the others. The energy source and the Seraphim Vegapunk created must have been with Saturn's oversight. Following Saturn, we have Saint Marcus Mars, the warrior god of environment. His statement points out Lulusia Kingdom's rebellion. It is clear that Mars is in charge of keeping up with all current affairs that is going on around the world, hence, environment. Next, we have Saint Topman Valkyrie, the warrior god of justice and law. Him stating that wiping out Lulusia would set a good example to others embodies the warped understanding of justice that Imu and the 5 elders represent. Next, we have the bold-headed samurai one, being Saint Ethan Baron Venus Juro, the warrior god of finance. And again, his speech gives us some understanding of his role, as Venus Juro looks to the future of how this weapon of Uranus and the new energy source can benefit them. Also, it's likely he has some roots from Wano due to the Juro in his name, along with obviously being a samurai. Now, this is followed by Saint Shepherd Jupiter, the warrior god of agriculture, who completes Venus Juro's idea that if they do indeed master this weapon, then all of the conflicts will end. But this combination of the two, of finance and agriculture, encapsulate world domination and control, as money is needed to run the world, and so is land, where crops and agriculture is grown. Now, through all the names, we can confirm that these 5 elders are indeed representation of the 5 planets, from Saturn, Mars to Valkyrie being Mercury, Venus Juro being Venus, and Jupiter being Jupiter. There being 5 of them refers to how in our own world until 1610 we believed there to be only 5 planets: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. These 5 planets were named after the Roman gods. But you're probably thinking, how does Imu-Sama fit into all of this?
Well, Imu, who we later find out is from the old family of Nerona, is in the center of everything. And I mean literally. Back in the day, the Romans also believed in the geocentric model of the solar system, where the 5 planets and the sun revolved around Earth. We can see a model similar to this during the the Ohara flashback. Imu is this representation. Imu is Earth. Now, I'm not saying Imu has Earth-like powers or is Mother Nature, but rather, Imu is the encapsulation of ego and earthly desires, being away from the heavens and vastness of the universe. Imu is all about the material, hence seeking immortality, control over others, and being the deceiver. This is in contrast to Luffy and the sun god Nika, who represents freedom, spirit, and truth. Similarly, this is also represented by the understanding of how the world actually is. As much after the naming of these 5 planets, we later learn that everything actually orbits around the sun, and Earth is not the center of our solar system. This reflects back to Luffy, who is the embodiment of what the world truly revolves around, which is, of course, the sun. The sun not only gives us light, but also brings joy to our hearts. This is scientifically proven not only due to the intake of vitamin D, which the people of D carry, but also due to the overwhelming light over the darkness. The freedom given to us by this light was supposed to be reinforced with the Ancient Kingdom's ideology and success with technology. Hence, the 3 ancient weapons which they created. Their means for good is shown by their names, as it was only after inventing the telescope we discovered 3 more planets in Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which obviously refers to Uranus, Poseidon, and Pluton, who all take on the names of Greek God. God of the sky, God of the sea, and God of the underworld. These weapons were not supposed to oppress others or help them achieve their earthly ambitions. Rather, it was made to free the world and unite them together. But Imu, who represents the ego of man and obsession over Earth, fought for the possession of Sunlight Eve, the red line, but most importantly, the control over others. To do this, Imu had to manipulate Zunisha and get a hold of Uranus to stand a chance against the Ancient Kingdom and Joy Boy. The other 2 weapons were forcibly hidden so Imu would never get their hands on it, but now Imu has eyes on Alabasta and will want to see Lily's poneglyph to find the other weapons, especially Pluton. Imu-Sama, channeling her inner Rob Lucci, tells the 5 elders to retrieve Vivi. This follows the concept of inversion, where the second half of the One Piece story will embody the first half in a way. However, instead of Robin being sought after, it will be Vivi, where our Straw Hat crew will have to protect her at all costs. Meanwhile, the government has more issues to deal with, as the 8th Kingdom Revolution is in full throttle, with the Aegis Kingdom and the Kingdom of Tajin being amongst them. But don't worry, because the Seraphims have been deployed to deal with it. By which I mean murder all the civilians who are revolting. Here we see the missing Seraphims of Crocodile, Doflamingo, and even Moria. Something interesting to note here is how Crocodile looks like a girl. These Seraphims are created with the user's lineage factor, so it's possible the secret Ivankov was holding against Croco was that he was born a female, which could mean that he is Luffy's mother.
Man, shut the fuck up.
You know he is Luffy's mother. I am right. This proves it. You can't silence her. Sabo continues his story about his stay at Lulusia, where the king and princess were imprisoned by the people, but Sabo was welcomed with open arms since he was a stowaway. This is when he found out that the government framed him for Cobra's death. As we already saw in chapter 1054, Sabo was labeled the Emperor of Flames and considered a hero for the act of killing Cobra, since he was technically an affiliate of the world government at the time. Sabo wanted to tell them the truth, but the lie ignited a fire in the people and caused the start of a rebellion, which the Revolutionary Army is aiming for, as seen multiple times with other kingdoms. Because of this, Sabo decided to keep up the lie and recruit many of the people revolting. It turns out that Sabo truly is the GOAT, managing to trick the 5 elders and Imu into thinking he was in Lulusia by rerouting the call. So Imu and the gorosei failed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Sabo was already sailing away with the new recruits, who sadly lost many of their families because of the attack. However, this made their ambition to rebel burn even hotter. As we come back to the present, Dragon asks the question we have all been wondering. How the hell did the government manage to one-shot an entire island? Well, Sabo describes what he saw as an enormous shadow engulfing the country from above before obliterating it. Obviously, Dragon is terrified knowing what he's up against and is more on edge when Sabo discounts any possibility that this was a natural disaster or a living thing. Something was above the kingdom. Eva then cuts into the conversation, explaining that amongst the first 20 sovereigns was one called Saint Imu of House Nerona. He also confirms what we already knew with our Ballsy prediction Aki, that Imu has been granted eternal youth. Thanks to the Ape Ape no Mi and its eternal youth surgery, Imu continues to live and no longer has to worry about death. It makes sense for Imu to have had the surgery, as how would someone in the present day have the same name that was there 800 years ago? Also, why do all these old ass celestial gorosei worship Imu as a god? Like, that makes no sense. The only way for Im to hold more authority than them is through her being a god who has oversaw the world for centuries. Also remember, the Celestials hold their ancestry in extreme high regard, as the original founders in a way are the creators of the world they live in. This is exactly how the gorosei refer to Imu earlier in the chapter. Furthermore, Eva surmises that the only person capable of creating such a devastating weapon is Vegapunk, but Dragon objects to the idea, as Vegapunk would never create such a killing machine. This brings us back to the weapon itself, because the way Sabo described it, it could be that Lulusia isn't destroyed, but rather it got instant transmission to the moon or some other place. As Dragon says, there is no way Vegapunk is dumb enough to give such a devastating power to the government. They can literally checkmate any threat before it can make a move with this power. And through the Egghead arc, we have seen that Vegapunk isn't a bad guy. He simply wants to further his research and bring about a utopian world with his science. And the wording behind the destruction of Lulusia is always hinting at how it vanished or disappeared. We haven't even seen the aftermath of this weapon, and in One Piece, nobody is dead unless we see them die. That's the rule. But this statement by Dragon also validates our theory about Vegapunk only creating the power source for Uranus. Eva, in response, agrees and confirms that revolutionaries do watch our videos, as he suggests that it could be an ancient weapon, and since Imu has been living for a long time, there is a connection. However, Dragon poses an important question. If Imu does have Uranus, why wait till now to use it? Well, we believe that Imu simply ran out of the ancient energy. We then move back to Marie Joie, where we see Shanks' grandfather, Saint Garling Figarland, has made his appearance. This man is a true menace because he has the authority to judge celestial dragons, which he has used to sentence Saint Don Quixote Misgard to death for the crime of defending Shirahoshi against Charlos. Garling is not only the judge but also the supreme commander of the God's Knight. But the way he looks, he doesn't seem to be part of the silhouettes we saw in chapter 1084. So the man looking like Shanks could be his son, as they share the same sword hilt design. And what do you know? He is a Figarland. Now, Shanks was revealed to be a Figarland back during film Red, where the gorosei assumed Uta to be part of the family since she was Shanks' daughter. Oda drops even more evidence about this man being Shanks' grandpa by telling us that he was the former king of God Valley. Remember guys, Shanks was found in a treasure chest in God Valley by Roger during the God Valley incident where Roxy Zabek attacked the island. Garling having a sword with a broken hilt could also be a hint that he fought during God Valley and had his sword broken. But being the commander of the God's Knight means that this man is busted. If the gorosei are monsters, then I wouldn't be surprised if he surpasses even them, because they have a lot of like bureaucracy type duties, you know, but this man has a fucking sword and he's part of the knighthood. Honestly, after this reveal of this guy, like, who are the admirals, bro? They are nothing. They had to send a gorosei with Kizaru because they thought, oh no, he can't hang with those emperors no more. But anyway, this guy's beard and haircut also make a crescent moon, which could be a hint to his position in Marie Joie. The gorosei represent the 5 different planets, while Garling and the God's Knights are the moon in the whole squad. It also makes sense for the God's Knights to be the moon, as they are the closest to Imu, the Earth. Also, he's definitely fighting Dragon. Like, come on, we've already seen the matchup being developed with Dragon name dropping the God's Knight in chapter 1084, so you know, that's the shonen rules. But anyway, if you guys want to learn more about Imu-Sama, then watch this video on screen right now.